Prepare to get gas because it's time for the Week in Gear. The only show where a T Rex, a Dirty Boy, and Iron Maiden all show up to the same party and no one knows who brought the hummus. This week, Fender drops a metal-ready Strat, EVH launches a digital 5150 that costs you more than your rent, and Electro Harmonix release a budget amp that no one was ready for. This week's episode is brought to you by Radial Engineering, and I'll tell you more about them in a moment. But for now, grab your wallet, hide it from yourself, and let's kick off this week's most exciting guitar gear releases with some signature Fenders. Iron Maiden turns 50 this year, and Fender decided to celebrate by launching a full-blown arsenal of limited edition signature guitars. And not just Fender guitars. In this collection, we have the Steve Harris 50th Anniversary Precision Bass, which I'm not going to focus on here, but I will say that the first Steve Harris bass is one of my favourite P basses. So, onto the guitars. The 50th Anniversary Dave Murray Stratocaster, the 50th Anniversary Yannick Gers Stratocaster, which is a Fender web exclusive, meaning you can only buy it from Fender.com. And for the true fans with true money, there is the custom shop master-built Dave Murray Stratocaster. That's it for the Fenders, but there is one more. The 50th Anniversary Iron Maiden Adrian Smith Jackson SC1. That's a mouthful. Which, visually at least, is my favourite of the bunch. Now, as there are so many models here, running down all the specs would take a little longer than it would for me to actually learn an Iron Maiden song. So, I will direct you to the links in the video description if you are interested. But, spec-wise, they've all got shred-ready necks, hot pickups, and hardware built for live abuse, and all with Floyds except the Yannick Gers, and the P-Bass, of course. But, all are ready to gallop like it's 1985. The custom shop will set you back around 10,000 notes. So there's that. But the regular models, which are, for those who care, made in Mexico, or made in Ensenada, as Fender like to say, and crafted in Mexico, put those away, for Jackson, prices start at around 1,800 notes. Fender don't say exactly how limited they are, which is frustrating, but I can't help feeling that these models could have been a bit more daring, or at least have one guitar that was something extra special, like the kind of stuff coming out of the RCA Guitars Workshop. I mean, that is pretty cool, but what do I know? Maybe Fender hit the nail on the Eddie the Head with this one. Iron Maiden fans, please let me know your thoughts in the comments section, and we'll go on to the gasometer, which is a little bit confused. If you're after a shred machine, I think there are better and cheaper options out there. But if we look at these as collectible items, not just as guitars, then these could be spot on. So let's meet right in the middle with add to cart. So let's say you love the 5150 sound, but you also love your lower back. Enter the EVH Hypersonic 6L6, a 50-watt digital combo that wants to be everything your tube amp is, but without the tubes. It's got 3 channels, clean, crunch, and lead, all voiced after the 5153 6L6 tones. There's an FX loop, there's MIDI, there's XLR out with IR cab sim, and a USB-C port for firmware updates. There's a plywood cab, and that comes with one Celestion EVH G12H 30-watt Anniversary Series speaker, and the whole thing weighs just under 40 pounds, or about 18 kilograms. This is basically a Fender Tonemaster 5150, and while I'm a big fan of the Tonemaster series of amps, sometimes they make sense, and sometimes they don't. And at around 1,700 notes, I don't think this 5150 modelled amp makes sense at all. In a world of Boss Katanas, Blackstar IDX, and IK Multimedia Tone X, to name but a few, this EVH branded digital amp seems grossly overpriced. It does sound pretty great, so let's have a listen from the official video. To be fair, it's loud and light and actually giggable, but for the price, I and the EVH video comments section expected more, or rather less cost. It is a love it or roast it release, and if you think Digital Tone can compete with glass bottles and heavy transformers, this might be your next amp. Now, I am all for digital modeling and Tone Master style tech, but here I don't think the advantages of the weight saving and the IRs make up for that price, especially as EVH's own 5150 Iconic is available for under $1,000. The gasometer is simmering at borrow it. My advice is back to Craigslist or Reverb for a used PV, or indeed a brand new 6505. Now, if this is not your first episode of TWIG, you'll know that this is a new studio, but it's not the only studio. It is obviously not finished just yet, but in here are 2 other studios. And I needed a way to get audio sent between each of these rooms. And I didn't want to run a bunch of XLR cables. So Radial sent out this, the Catapult Rack RX and the Catapult Rack TX. And with this, I can use the network cables that were already in the building to send audio pretty much anywhere. It's very exciting. I will, of course, have a full review of that very soon. I'll also have a review of this, the Highline Stereo Line Isolator, for giving that signal a bit of extra boost. And it's not just Radial that's sponsoring this episode. Face have organised this for me, and they send out all the stuff for Radial and a bunch of other brands within the EU. And I don't actually know what's in this box, so let's crack it open. There is a bunch of stuff in here, including the Catapult Mini, in case I only want to send 4 signals. Again, very, very useful. And the rest, well, we're going to have to save that for next week. So this is a bit of a sneak preview of the new studio layout, and I want to say thank you very much to Radial for sponsoring this episode. Check them out at this link. I'll put it in the video description. Now, on with the show. Time to jump into a full-blown fuzz land. A land where I feel nice and cozy, and usually very excited. And today is no different. The T Rex Fuzztopia is a fuzz/distortion pedal that gives you a classic fuzz mixed with modern distortion, and a blend knob, or rather 2 blend knobs, to mix your clean signal back in, so you don't end up sounding like a pillow on fire. Although Pillow on Fire sounds like it could be pretty fun, and is definitely going on my list of band names. The Fuzztopia is handmade in Denmark, just like our beloved editor, Victor. Hello, Victor! It's got 2 foot switches, one for fuzz, one for distortion. The fuzz side of this tends to lean towards vintage, and the distortion side feels more like an overdrive with teeth. And then the blend controls mean you can blend in your clean signal with both. Here is the vintage fuzzy side. And here is the more distorted sound. Now, it's not clear if it's fuzz going into distortion or distortion going into fuzz, but as far as I can tell, you can't swap the order on these 2. So my guess would be fuzz going into distortion. There is also a toggle switch on the back, which allows you to link both effects so that you can press either of the foot switches and both effects will come on, or you can have them independent, where one foot switch controls the fuzz and one foot switch controls the distortion. And I think that is a neat idea. The big surprise is that this is coming in at about 165 notes. I think I'm looking the right way. Yes? And for a pedal that's not only designed but also handmade in Denmark, I was expecting this to be above 200. And I'm pleased to say that compared to other pedals that do similar things, this is priced extremely competitively. The gasometer is therefore a clear buy it now with the fuzz. It sounds great, it's priced well, and it should be built well enough to withstand a dinosaur stomping on it. Links in the video description. Coming in hot this week, the Silverboy, a fully analog preamp pedal that started its life as a plugin and then became a real boy. This is a tube amp emulation analog circuit, not modeling, not IRs, but a legit hardware preamp that mimics the sag, the breakup, and the feel of a vintage amp, so they say over at Dirty Boy. Here's what you get: a 3-band EQ, a variac control to simulate voltage sag and compression. There's preamp out, there's cab sim out, and a headphone jack. There's also an aux in for jamming along to tracks, which is quite a surprise, to be honest. There's a full analog signal path, and it runs on standard 9-volt DC. Ooh. Now this seems very cool, and in case it's not clear, the Silverboy was first available as a plug-in component in 2Notes Genome software. Is it 2Notes or 2Notes'? 2Notes' Genome software. Dirty Boy sort of reached into the screen and then pulled it out, and with a soldering iron and a whole handful of gumption, made it a real pedal. I'm a big fan of the Genome suite, and I've tried the virtual version of the Silverboy, and it can go from cleany, sparkly to a very fat, fuzzy, saturated tone without any additional pedals or effects. And sometimes not all preamps can pull off that sort of spectrum well. However, I hope you're sitting down for this. Now, if you're sitting down, if possible, lie down. The Dirty Boy Silverboy will set you back about 400 notes, which is not cheap. My gut reaction is that for most players, the virtual version via Genome will be more than enough to satisfy your needs. But if you find that it becomes a core component of your sound, you better start saving. The gasometer is an add to cart on this one. I'm curious, and I dig the sounds. By the way, if you're searching for Dirty Boy on Facebook, make sure to include the word pedal. Dirty Boy pedal or pedals. Trust me on this.
Andy's Pick of the Week.
Yes, my pick of the week this week is the Electro Harmonix Abrams 100, a 100-watt amp head that weighs less than the best burrito I've ever had, and somehow sounds just as massive. This is a Class D solid-state head with a simple front panel with 3-band EQ. There's a bright switch. You've got a built-in digital spring reverb, which is probably an Electro Harmonix pedal circuit. And you've got a series loop and a power amp input via the FX return. So you can use it with modelers and preamps or just straight off your board. Possibly even use it with the Dirty Boy Silverboy. You get speaker output support from 4 to 16 ohms, and it's housed in a compact metal chassis that weighs just 2.5 pounds, which is about 1 kilogram. And it's my pick of the week because it's small and practical, and it's coming in at just under 300 notes. And although something like this is nothing new in the world of small Class D amps, I am quite a big fan of Electro Harmonix, and I like the voicing on this. The reverb is nice and believable, the clean is not too processed and solid state, dare I say. The mid-drive has that kind of pushed Fender clean amp that I really like. And for anyone who wants to rock up at a gig, plug into a cab at the back and either have some clean or low gain sounds and add a little bit more drive from a pedal board, this seems like a good choice. And if you're using modulation or want more reverb, there's the effects loop. I do have a bit of a gripe, and that is that it's called the Abrams 100, as it is technically a 100-watt amp. Well, not technically, it is. But that's going into 4 ohms, and I would argue that most guitar players have either an 8 ohms or possibly 16 ohm cab. I know I don't own a 4 ohm cab, and that means that the power gets brought down to 50 watts or 25 watts respectively. It's not a deal breaker, as I think that 50 watts is enough for most, and in an official document or official marketing thing, of course Electro Harmonix are going to say it's 100 watts, but any independent commenter like me has to point out that this should really be considered a 50 watt amp in most cases. I also think Electro Harmonix should have added a headphone output, and I'm kind of disappointed that they haven't. But on the other hand, it is very clear that they're aiming this at someone who wants to play live shows rather than practice silently. For me, every amp should have either a built-in reverb or an effects loop, and this has both. And one thing that might go unnoticed is there is no external power supply, and many small amps that are this sized and light usually have some sort of wall wart or inline power supply that drags across the stage. And I'm never really a fan of those things. This means that there is no power supply to lose, and you don't often even have to bring a power cable with you. If there's an amp at the back of the stage, it uses a standard IEC cable. It should already be there, but do bring one. Actually, come to think of it, it seems like EHX have developed a product that they need themselves to demo their own pedals, as it does sound great with the glove in the video, and I'm sure that it works well when they need to show people what their pedals sound like with places like the NAMM show, which is coming up very, very soon. And yes, I will be there. The Gasometer is a buy it now. Simple, elegant solution that is built and probably named after a tank. Nice work, EHX. Okay, it is time for thanks. Thank you to these people who support the show on Patreon. Their names are on screen now. And these people support the show right here on YouTube. Hello to you, and thank you so much. And here's a special thanks to the top tier members. Alinta, Antonio Cruz Barreto, Buddha Blue, Boom Shakalaka, Buzzle, Dirk, Doug Paget, Yindrik Strelka, Johnny McBadminton, Kultur Matt, Mike Lute, Andrew Morgan, Gary O'Neill, holy moly, that's 8675309, Josh Tamberg, Man Dude Bro, PQ Deads, Robin Kelly, Sarang Narayan, Southern Panda 33, and joining the top tier members this week, Darius Lives. Or is it Darius Lives? Let me know. Big thank you to all the top tier members and everybody that watches the show, of course. Now, go comment your pick of the week, and then go make a sandwich. You look hungry. See you in the next video. Bye!